if I start venturing into something different or new, I don't want to say I'm second guessing that slight thing. Well, I've never done that before, but I'm like, everybody has a first time doing whatever they've done.
Yep.
There's always a first time you've been public speaking. There's always the first time you bought a business. Always the first time you work for yourself. Like, it's always a first time for everybody.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, I'm just as just the same as them. Welcome, everybody, back to the Connection Corner here with Janelle. And today I have Landon Mance. He is somebody actually that I met at a networking event. I think it was, 4 years ago. And from that point on, and of course, you guys all know that I'm like the follow-up queen. So Landon was somebody I followed up with all the time just to check in, because at that point he was pregnant. His wife was pregnant with twins. So I was so fascinated to see what was going on with that. So I want to welcome Landon today. He is a business owner here in Las Vegas and an investor. That's something he's branching out and investing in other types of businesses. So we're going to talk to Landon today a little bit about who he is and where he is coming from and where he's planning on going, because you're always moving and shaking, which I love about you. So welcome today to the Connection Corner.
Thank you. Great to see you as always.
Yes. And it's so funny because I think we just connected that initial meeting. It was a business meeting, obviously, with a bunch of attorneys and CPAs and all of that. And I think that where we connected was you, and what I was so fascinated about was you're a financial planner, advisor, but in the business world. And I'd never met anybody that does that, because I'm always in those networking events where it's personal, it's someone's asset, somebody's, personal business, but you are more in the weeds of a business owner to let them know, how can we get this section of it dialed in, and then it kind of transcends into their personal life, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you were just such a different type. So to me, I'd never met anybody that did that. So I was always so fascinated with, what type of client you were working with and where did it go? And then you obviously have a podcast as well. So I kind of follow that, and you bring on different business owners, which I love, and they get to tell their story as well. But you've recently purchased, it's been a year now for the Nevada Tree Service, right?
Yep.
So how did you get into the financial thing? That's obviously something, maybe a college thing, I would assume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So back in 2008, 2009, really a wonderful time to become a financial advisor.
Yeah.
I did an internship. I think I was 24.
Okay.
So a little old to be doing internships maybe, but I had actually taken a few years off of school because I was a professional poker player.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I did that for about probably
That's a great
2.5
story.
or 3 years.
Yeah.
And so somehow I found myself, with a desire to go back and finish my degree after I'd been out of school for several years. And so I did. And in my last year of school at Long Beach State, I did an internship for a guy. At the time, it was still, I think it was still Morgan Stanley Smith Barney.
Mm.
And basically, he just stuck me in the corner of his office with a phone book and made cold calls trying to set appointments.
Yeah, that's tough.
And so here I am, knowing nothing about the industry. And I still remember this. I don't know why this sticks out in my head, but I needed a new pair of dress shoes. Okay. So I go out and buy these cheap A dress shoes. They're brand new, but they're like just super cheap because I don't know. That's just what I did. I've always been pretty frugal, so I'm always looking for deals and stuff.
Yeah.
So I go out and buy these cheap dress shoes. And I remember walking down the hallway of this office, and they were like squeaking. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, it's my
That's
shoes.
That's what you get when you buy cheap.
Yeah. So after doing it, I was only there for a couple months, but so I love people.
Yeah.
Love, like you.
Yeah.
I love people. I love meeting new people. I love interacting with new people. I love helping people and serving people. And I would go into the break room because he'd be like, hey, can you go grab me a cup of coffee or something? Yeah, sure. Go into the break room. In walks Mary, advisor woman who's in her 50s or 60s, been doing this probably a couple decades. I walk in like, hey, good morning, how are you, like, and I mean, it was
Nothing.
like I didn't exist there. Like people wouldn't, like, they literally wouldn't even like give me the time of day to
Wow.
like say hello. I'm like, what is going on here? So I quickly learned that I could do his job, the guy I was interning for. Knew that I did not want to work there. So I went out and started looking for a job as a green financial advisor, and got hired by a company called Waddell and Reed,
Mm.
which was an independent financial advisory firm,
Yeah.
meaning that I'm starting out from scratch.
Yeah.
No salary, no clients, no revenue. I had a little bit of a network for sure, but just started out from scratch. So anyway, I met a really great guy. His name was Mark. He was one of the top producers in the entire firm, and at that
Wow.
time they had thousands of
Oh, they did?
advisors. Oh
Oh,
yeah, they were
wow.
big. They were really big. So he was one of the very top producers in the entire firm. Just so happened he was a really great guy as well. So him and I just
Nice.
totally hit it off. And so I was there for a little bit, left the business to go out to work for a guy in southern Utah. Um, we can unpack that. That may be a story for a different day, but he's about to go to federal prison for a very public fraud trial. So
No.
I can tell you more about that. But went out to work for this guy for a couple years,
Yeah.
and then I moved down to Las Vegas in December of 2011. Got back into the field of financial planning and wealth management because I knew that's what I wanted to do for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Started working for the bank, but I had this vision where I would work for the bank for a couple of years and then go back out into the independent world, because I knew that I didn't want someone telling me, what I could and couldn't do, what technology I could and couldn't use, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
So in September of 2015, I went back into the independent space and started my own practice, September of 2015.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was back and forth, but I think it was a learning curve and you knew what you wanted to be and not be.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's key because that's something that I think we all learn in whatever industry that we're in.
Yep.
Right. And I think that's what gives us the drive to say, I'm going to go do this, but I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah.
Right. Which I love. And that's a very small percentage of people, in my opinion. Most people just continue to work for whatever.
Right.
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 So based off of Mary and how she was towards people, how did you feel that you were going to identify yourself different than the Marys of the world?
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's just kind of in my nature to want to help, other people and to shed light on stuff to help people get better and to grow and to learn more about stuff. That's why I've been really open in some different online forums in the last year after I bought this business, and because buying businesses is kind of this new thing, for people.
Yeah.
So we can certainly talk more about that.
Yeah.
But collaboration, like that's just something that's super important to me.
Right.
Collaborating with my now business partner, Austin. We used to have siloed practices where I had clients, he had clients, then we had a small group of clients that we served together. And then in July of last year, 30 days after I bought Nevada Tree Service, this was not by design at all, we left the independent broker-dealer world and started our own registered investment advisory.
Okay.
And so now Austin and I,
Together.
50-50 across the board. So we are just true business partners now in that sense. So a lot of collaboration with Austin. The old firm that I used to partner with, Lincoln Financial Advisors, was really a great firm and a great partner. A lot of really great advisors there. That's how I basically learned how to cut my teeth working with the business owner market.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I
So,
think is so untapped. It's just not, I don't see a lot of that. I mean, am I just blind to it? I mean, does that really exist? I mean, do you have a lot of competition in that or?
so in what we do, very, very little,
Yeah.
because 99% of advisors that work with business owners, it's generally they've sold their business and they've
Mm,
got this big pot of money to manage.
right.
And that's typically when the advisor
Okay.
gets brought into the picture for a business owner.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So our model is very different. We don't care if a client has 50 grand to invest
Mhm.
or they have 50 million. It doesn't
Right.
make a difference to us because we just charge an annual fee
Yeah.
to engage with us, just like you pay your attorney or your
Yeah.
CPA.
It's a great business
Yeah, that's
model.
how you pay us.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And no pressure,
Yeah.
right? And it's like you said, it is together coming up with even that plan to exit the business,
Right.
right? So you're taking them from here to there and not waiting for this to happen in order to get them as a client,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
you've kind of flipped that process, I'd say, which I think is more valuable because I think you can help them build to where they do have a chunk at the end.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
It's a whole different thing. And I think with your mindset of being a business owner and buying other businesses, you get what they're going through,
Yeah.
right? I would imagine that's where, you know, I don't know that everybody can offer that,
Yeah.
right? They're not living it like they are.
And I mean, in my opinion, and I think why we get hired by a lot of business owners is that is the differentiator. Between Austin and I, we've bought businesses, we've sold businesses, we've grown businesses from scratch, we've bought
Mhm.
existing, profitable cash flowing businesses. We've bought franchises. We've done a lot of stuff in that space. I was the kid growing up that was like, 6 years old that came and like knocked on your door, and I was like, because I picked lemons off of the lemon groves
Okay.
and was selling lemons,
Wow.
to my neighbors to make a couple
Yeah.
bucks.
Yeah.
Or the kid knocking on your door to mow your lawn, or whatever.
Mhm.
So, my grandpa was a serial entrepreneur. My dad's been, self-employed for 50 plus years doing commercial development. My older sister Dana has a really successful women's clothing boutique out of Long Beach, California.
Oh, wow.
So it just, like, when I say it runs through our veins,
Yes.
like, it absolutely does.
Right. So what would you tell somebody that is considering purchasing, I think I'm seeing this just more and more in the community, just in the conversations I'm having. I was in a networking meeting this morning, and this was something I talked to with one of the guests. She's like, I was in that traditional working for somebody mode for so long, and she says, I realized I needed to just get and, just step out and do this, right? So because it is so natural for you, what is something that you could share that would give encouragement, like, go ahead and make that step. It's going to be okay. And, I always say everybody's doing it. If someone else can do it, I know I can do it. Do I know how? Maybe I need to find the person that's going to help me do it. Right?
Right.
Doesn't mean I can't do it.
Right.
So, what would you suggest to somebody that has these thoughts in their mind because it's something, a passion that they have that they want to start?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. So I've started businesses from scratch, and I've bought existing profitable businesses, and I'll go the latter all day long.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say never, because I have learned many times over never to say never.
Yeah.
But it is highly unlikely that I will ever start another business from scratch. Highly,
Right.
highly unlikely. Because
Yeah.
as long as you're patient and you are resourceful, you can go out and buy an existing profitable business that already has revenue, customers, a storefront. It already has like the bones and the
Yep.
foundation, and it allows you to come in and either just continue, hopefully, with what they're doing if you're just trying to maintain it, or
Enhance it.
right, or enhance it. Yeah. So, my advice to people is a little bit contrary to what maybe you're thinking there. Like, when I first set out on this mission to buy my first business, I was like, okay, I need to find something that, like, I'm excited and I'm passionate about.
Mm.
And after searching for 12 to 18 months and just interacting with a lot of people that had bought businesses and were looking for businesses and talking to a lot of other really successful business owners, I learned something and it resonated with me. And what I learned was I wasn't going out and going to try to find a business that I was passionate about. What I was passionate about was going out and finding a
Got
fundamentally
it.
sound small business to acquire.
Right.
And there are not a lot of those. So you have to be very, very patient. So there's this whole community now. It's called like the search community or
Okay.
ETA, which is
Okay.
entrepreneurship through acquisition.
Okay.
There's this whole movement now.
What?
Yep. And you talk to a searcher would be somebody that is full-time searching for a
Wow.
business to buy.
Okay.
So you talk to anybody that has bought a business that was going down that avenue or that is still searching, and they'll tell you the runway to find a good business to buy is 12 to 36 months. That's how long it takes.
Okay.
Because you're going to kiss hundreds of frogs
Yeah.
before you find your prince.
Right.
And so you just have to be extremely patient. And you have to be resourceful. Notice I'm not saying you have to have resources, you have to be resourceful. Because if you go out and you find a really good business, and let's say you're going to buy the business for $1.5 million, and you're like, well, the heck, where am I going to get 1.5 million? Well, no. Generally, you only need about 10%
Okay.
to put down, which is
Okay.
150 grand.
Okay.
And if you don't have the 150 grand to put down, but you found a good business to buy, finding the capital to buy the business is not a problem. It's finding the deal. That's the real
Right.
challenge.
Right.
If you find a good business to buy, you can find investors. It is
Wow.
not difficult. Yeah, are you going to have some conversations? For
Sure.
sure. But like,
Yeah.
you can find the capital if you find a good business to buy. That is not the challenge. The challenge is finding the business.
Right. Based off of what they think that it's worth, right? I would imagine what the owner feels versus what it is.
Yep.
Sometimes is the challenge, right?
Yep.
So, and that I think is in that due diligence period that you find that stuff out, right? So, do you have to go through a couple of those before you commit to one?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
what does that process look
Yeah.
like?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. So when you're looking for a business, getting into diligence means that you have submitted a letter of intent and it's been accepted. So you've come to these loose terms and you're like, okay, I'm saying I'm going to buy your business. You've accepted my offer. Now we move into diligence.
Right.
But a lot of times what you're referring to, this gap between what the business owner thinks their business is worth and
Yes.
what the market will actually pay for their business, that can be discovered way before you get into diligence.
Okay.
I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So my other partner, Brian, and I, the one that we're raising this fund together, we're talking to a business owner right now. It's a business based out of Texas. It's a software as a service business, but with a big human element to it. And they do about $1 million a year profit. And the guy thinks that his business is worth $7 to $10 million. Yeah, which would be a 7 to 10 multiple on profit.
Right.
Okay. Nobody in their right mind is buying his business
For
for 7
7.
to 10 million. Yeah. But is it worth somewhere between 3 and 5 or 3 and 6 million? It absolutely is. So we had our initial conversation with him last week to just build some rapport and get to know him. We've got another conversation with him. I think it's on Monday or Tuesday. And we're going to ask some very light diligence questions so that we can get a better understanding of kind of where his head is at. But in this discussion, we're going to say, hey, here's where our range is to come in if we're going to make an offer on your business. And our range will be somewhere between 3.5 and 6 million. But if he says, okay, yeah, like you guys are in the ballpark. So then we submit a formal offer on the business, which is, it's non-binding.
Okay.
Then we move into diligence and start to
Okay.
turn over all the rocks.
Yeah.
Now, if the business is exactly as they're putting it out there to be, okay, well then maybe he's on the higher end of the range.
Right.
So maybe his business
Right.
really is worth like maybe 5 million.
Right.
Okay. And if that's the case, then we'll be happy to pay for it. But during diligence, when we're turning over these rocks and we start to find things that we see as potential challenges and issues, then that could chip away at what we're
Totally.
actually willing to pay. So initially I could say to you, yeah, here's my letter of intent. I intend to buy your business from you for 5 million. But when we go through diligence, we could be halfway through diligence and we're like, okay, this is what we've uncovered. This is why now we're not prepared to buy it for 5. We're
Yep.
prepared to buy it for 3.5, and here's why.
Right.
And at that point, the deal dies or it moves forward if we can stay in alignment with
Right.
things.
How do you find these people that are willing to sell their business? That's what I've always wondered.
So short answer is one of 2 ways. One is you network, right? You network with other intermediaries, other business owners, other consultants, or you just search the internet for businesses that are listed for sale, or you
Okay,
can do
so
some
they're
hybrid
listed.
approach. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep. So there's a lot of different different websites that you can look at. Some are focused on smaller, like real mom and pop
Sure.
businesses that are maybe $1 million of enterprise value or less. And then there's other sites that really focus on more mature businesses that are doing like at least a couple $1,000,000 a year in profit.
And do you work with a broker that brokers that for you guys? Or because I've heard of them, I know of some. So
Yeah.
I don't know that that's always the traditional way of doing that, but how do you do it?
Yeah, so it's really rare to work with brokers on the buy side.
Okay.
Brokers
More on the
almost
selling side.
exclusively work on sell side.
Got it.
Yeah, so they're representing
The seller.
sellers,
Got
putting their
it.
businesses out to market.
Okay.
There are advisors out there that represent buyers.
But you guys are primarily looking and finding, and then you're approaching that business by saying we're interested.
Yeah, so
just out here as a buyer.
yeah, absolutely. And it could be already represented by a broker, or it could not because we just got an introduction from some person that said, hey,
Right.
Sally is thinking about selling her business based on what you guys are doing. I think you guys should link up, like, a lot of the stuff that you do, connecting people.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I love to know is, and we've had this conversation. I mean, it was just even a week ago when you said, I've got this new thing that I'm doing. I was like, oh my gosh, I got people you need to meet, right? So again, I think, and I'm speaking to the audience here, is when you have something and you have a dream of doing something and purchasing other businesses or wanting to know about it, you got to let people know, right? Because none of us know that that's what you're thinking and considering. Or if you need some advice on how to do it, then talk to another Landon that is doing that because he can help guide and say, this is how we've been doing it, or this is what to look for, right? Because I think it's so foreign to a lot of people.
Yeah.
The process of identifying it and then what happens through. And I think I've learned that with you, even when you were looking to buy, it was seeing how these businesses feel that this is how much it's worth. But then, like you said, just kind of unpacking that. I have a friend of mine that bought an existing company here in town and just actually, it's been a year, but just now realized that there was some sort of credit that they had been receiving from the manufacturer that expired. So that was what was included in that amount. And now that's not there. So now he's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was part of it. He goes, whether they disclose it to me or I just don't remember, I did not know that was going to go away. And so I'm like, well, go ask them if you can extend it. See if they'll still give you the credit, right? Those are conversations you need to have now with the manufacturer.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But, see what, so I'm always so fascinated with this because we don't ever really know what's happening in a business until we kind of start doing that.
Yeah, that's such a great example because it's the little nuanced things that the owner knows in their head because they've been running the business for 5, 10, 30 years, right?
Yep.
They know all this stuff like the back of their hand.
Yep.
And then this new person comes in and they're we're
They're taking
relatively
over,
clueless.
basically.
Right,
Yeah.
right, taking over, right.
Yeah.
And it's those little nuanced things that
Yeah.
that get overlooked. So
Yeah.
that's a great example of something that, like, you know, maybe maybe it was caught in diligence, but it just was kind of overlooked because
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe the owner was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, don't worry about that. That's just a credit with the manufacturer, and
Yeah.
that'll just continue." And you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay." Like, you just take their word for it.
Yeah. Well,
So
because it only expired like recently.
yeah,
And so he's like, what is this? So yeah.
yeah,
I'm sure that owner didn't intentionally overlook that. To him, it was just something that he just had.
yeah.
I
I
would
mean,
think.
I would say, yeah. I mean, you're an optimistic person, so am
I
I.
know.
It's probably
Yeah.
50-50.
Yeah.
They may have very well known
Known.
that
Yeah.
it was there and it was going to expire.
Yeah.
That could have been one of the reasons they
Why
wanted to
get out.
sell. Like, maybe the credit was there for the
True.
last 10 years.
True.
They knew that it was going to expire. They're like, shoot, that's
Yep.
that's gonna bring my profit down
We've got to sell now.
100 grand a year. Like, let's
Yeah.
get out now.
Yep, that's exactly right.
You don't know. It could have been
know.
that, and
I
it
hope
could have been
not.
a total
Yeah.
innocent
Sure.
overlook.
Right. But those things happen, right? So we're going to say we're going to take the good and the bad when we're purchasing a business.
Yep.
Right? Because we think that we're catching everything, but maybe sometimes we're not.
Yep.
Right? Or that type of scenario happens. So
Yep.
so then it's like, now what?
Yep.
Right?
So there's something called reps and warranties.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
when you buy a business, you can include reps and warranties in the business in the paperwork, basically,
Okay.
the legal paperwork. And reps and warranties will protect you from stuff that maybe was not
What?
disclosed. Yep.
This
So-
is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. You usually see it
Oh
in
my gosh.
bigger deals,
Okay.
like, sub $1 million, even sub couple $1 million deals. You don't
Okay.
generally see that.
Interesting.
But when you get into businesses that are doing, at least like $1 to $2 million of profit, and you're going to buy a business for
Yeah.
4, 5, 10, $20 million,
Right.
it's a little bit more sophisticated of a transaction. So you're
Sure.
using better attorneys and you're
Right.
paying people more to make sure that
True.
those kinds of things don't go
Yeah.
unnoticed. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then you design this thing called reps and warranties, and it protects you as the buyer for, it can be up to like 3 years or something after an acquisition.
I
To
kind of
where,
like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because 3 years you're going to know.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
So you were talking to me about this new venture thing that you're doing right now. So I want you to kind of talk a little bit about that because we may have people that are interested. So,
Yeah,
I want them to know.
yeah, appreciate it. So I'll try to keep it short and sweet because, I can go on and ramble for a long time. So a partner and I, Brian was in private equity for about 15 years.
Okay.
And then he left private equity about 4 or 5 years ago, bought a business with a partner of his. They grew that business pretty nicely and then ended up exiting out of that business last year. And then also bought a few other businesses during that same time in the same space.
Mm.
So they bought one called a platform companies, and then they added a couple of smaller companies to it. So they built something pretty nice in a short period of time and then ended up selling that business. And so Brian and I got connected, and we are in the process of raising I say small, it's relative, it's small compared to other funds, but we're going to raise a $20 million fund to go out and buy $1 to $3 million profit small businesses. And the thought behind what we're doing is really around creating this ecosystem of entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
So think a private fund capitalized and backed by other successful entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Some are exited, some are still, operators. And on top of that, also taking in these other folks who are the people that you just alluded to that have been in a corporate career for 10 or 20 years. They're thinking about, the entrepreneurial journey because they've gotten turned on to it for, by, in one way, shape, or form. So we're bringing together this ecosystem of current, past, and future entrepreneurs so that we can basically, link us all together because we're going to go out and buy businesses from retiring owners, right? That have been probably running these businesses for a couple of decades. They've got tribal knowledge up in their head that you can't even buy that kind of knowledge, right?
No.
And so capitalizing the business with other entrepreneurs. So it just creates this crazy kind of ecosystem to where, we're going out to look at a business. Well, we can tap all of our investors who are all entrepreneurs and say, hey, we're looking at this deal that we really like, this great business from this great, lady that we're going to buy. Let's put your eyes on it so that you guys can tell us, what are some blinders that we may have here? Like, what are some other things that we need to consider?
Right.
So we can tap into their expertise there, but also our investors are going to be people that are going to be selling their businesses in the next maybe 3 to 10 years. So we've designed this fund to be essentially an evergreen type fund where it's not like in 5 or 7 years because the fund life is coming to its end, where we have to sell off these great businesses that we've bought because it's the end of the fund.
Yeah.
So we structure the fund to be basically indefinite so that we can buy great assets and hold these great assets for as long as it makes sense to hold them.
Interesting. That is amazing.
Yeah.
But that's something different, right? It's not really something that I'm just going to say the average person is talking about. But I think it gives the average person, in a sense, the ability to invest.
Right.
Right?
So yes and no. There's some restrictions.
Okay.
Because I co-own a registered investment advisory.
Oh, got it.
We have to adhere to certain limitations that are set by the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Okay.
So you do have to, I know it kind of sucks, honestly, but it is what it is. Like, you have to have a certain level of wealth to invest into this fund because we have to adhere to really strict regulations, not set by us. They are set by basically the federal government. Right. So we have there's no way around it. Now, on the flip side, it does also cause our fund to have to have certain things in place. Like, we have to get audited every single year, which is like a pretty big deal. It's like a $20,000 to $30,000 a year expense, but it also provides our investors with a lot of transparency because they can, it's just a way to kind of double check and to verify that, like, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, because unfortunately there are a lot of bad actors out in that space, just like there are in every space. And people are going out and raising funds, and then they're buying private jets and traveling and buying, Rolexes and all kinds of silly stuff. So it does provide a level of security and transparency into what we're doing. So there's pros and cons to it for sure.
Well, and I think and on the other side of that, on these business owners, there's a way for them to exit out, right? So if you're looking for those ones that have already been in the business for so long, there's an option for that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's just as important as gathering these investors. It's letting these business owners know that there's a legit, a group coming in really in their best interest to purchase that from them, right? And keep it going. Like you said, it's not a startup. You're continuing that legacy that they are building with that business, right? So I think that gives them some peace of mind because that's been their baby for 30 years. And you're coming in and saying, we're still going to take care of your baby and we've got the money to back it, right? So I think that just psychologically is a great thing for a business owner that's willing to sell. So I think that's my rainbows and butterflies side. I'm looking at the business owner, make sure they're good too. But I think that's great that's where your target sounds like you have a very targeted market that you're looking for. Right. So I love that because it's very intentional. On the personal side of things, I know you've got, twins, you got 4-year-old, 2 little babies, and you guys are always looking at maybe moving out of Vegas and looking at that. So what is your thought behind that? Because I think you're building your business where you can operate anywhere you're at. Right? So I like that you've got that plan. And then personally, you're like, I've got plans for my family as well. But what you're setting up works for that, right?
Yep.
Which I love, because I think a lot of people think about, that they're stuck in maybe a particular place because that's where the business is.
Right.
So, where did you and your wife kind of come up with that, plan?
Yeah. So, when you run a business or you buy an existing business, I mean, you're either going to be the operator yourself, right? You're going to run the business, or you're going to have, an operator that runs a business for you.
Yeah.
So when we bought Nevada Tree Service last year, I partnered with a buddy of mine. We bought the business together. He runs the business day to day. I'm kind of more like in an advisory role. So I kind of help lead the efforts, guide him. He didn't have any small business experience, and then advise on certain aspects of the business, but he runs the business day to day. So my conversations are just primarily with him. So obviously we can have those,
And
anywhere.
and I like that, because I feel so many people want to control everything. They
Mhm.
go into a business and now suddenly they want to be in the weeds. I love the fact that you're not. And that's not your purpose of purchasing a business.
Right.
Is to work in it.
Yep.
You're purchasing in order for an investment, but yet giving that advisory role. I love that. And I think you and I have common ground on that advisory role, right? Because you've been coached and you are a coach to
Right.
business owners. So you know exactly how to keep those systems
Right.
operating. I don't think a lot of people have that kind of expertise when they're going in. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that you have that. And that's, your role.
Yeah.
Right? That's amazing. I would imagine then you're not stressed out. You got another business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely. So that gives me, some flexibility to kind of live wherever. So the thought behind wanting to leave Vegas has zero to do with not liking it here, not being a great place to raise a family, all the other, idiosyncrasies that, people think about, Las Vegas. Has nothing to do with that. There's a couple reasons. Cooler summers. We want
Amen to that.
we
Oh my
want
God.
we want the twins to be able to play outside
Yep.
during the summer. And can you do that out here? A little bit. Like, you can only swim so many days in a row when it's 105 plus. So we want cooler summers, and I want a little bit of land. Nothing crazy. I want 1 to 2, maybe 3 acres.
Yeah.
And we want to have a chicken coop, and we want to have grass, and we want to be able to,
Yeah. Real grass.
if we want to be able to build a, little bike jump on our property, like I want to be able to do that kind of stuff. And so we're not going to get that here.
Yeah.
So we're going to probably stay like on the West Coast. We might end up in Boise. But yeah, the plan is to leave Vegas as our full-time home, probably by the end of this year.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's all in my opinion, it's all for the right reasons. Like, I love Vegas. I have loved living here. My wife, has been here 40 years, born and raised, never lived anywhere else. She likes Vegas. She loves Vegas, but she's ready to try something.
Yeah, I get it. I've had half my family move out, and born and raised here as well. I've tried to get out of here for so long, just simply for it. And I mean, the city has been great to me, obviously, and I'm entrenched in it. But I think that cooler weather, just a different lifestyle, like you said, the land, it's just a whole different mindset, I think, in these other cities that we don't really have here. So. So moving out, I totally get that. And I think everybody kind of gets to a point. This city serves us for certain things, right? And then it's different phases and seasons in our life.
Yep.
So, you've got the kids. That's what you're thinking about, right?
Yep.
But you're planning for that by saying, hey, the things I'm going to do moving forward, I can do anywhere.
Right.
Right? So you've got that whole plan, which I love. And I think that's, that speaks to everyone out there that is looking to make any change in their life, maybe understanding what that means, all encompassing, what does that mean? And how can I make it to where I can still be doing what I love to do? Maybe
Yeah.
that's on the road. I mean, you have a lot of people are packing up their houses and they're just buying these,
Mini
mini
houses or
houses.
these
Yeah.
ADUs and yeah.
Yeah, which I applaud them for that because I think that's great. They're simplifying, and I
Yeah.
love that. And really kind of trying to figure out what they can do on the road,
Yeah.
if you will,
Yeah.
right? Which I love.
It makes me think of a story. So my wife's cousin, they are in the process of building a new house.
Mm,
I think it's like a custom build. And they've always lived in your traditional,
yeah.
community, suburb.
Suburb. Yeah.
So they're building this house and they've got 4 pretty young kids.
Okay.
So they have a trailer that they use to go like camping and stuff. So they didn't have anywhere to live while building this house.
Right.
So they moved into a trailer park.
Okay. They love
And
it.
yeah, they absolutely fell in love with it.
So
Now they're
the
building,
house.
they're building like a 4,000 square
Oh.
foot custom home. And they moved into a trailer park while they're building their home and absolutely fell in love with it. They said it's their favorite place that they have ever lived because there's a bunch of kids in there and just what I described. All day long, the kids are out running around the park and they're on their bikes and they're doing stuff and like it's a really great little community.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I actually don't know what they ended up doing because we've kind of lost touch with them. But I just remember them telling us, talking about this trailer park, and they're like, "We absolutely love it there. Like we don't want to leave."
Yeah.
So you never know what's gonna kind of wet your beak, unless you try it. So that's what we're doing.
Well, because we've been so in this particular rat race, right? Or this is what's next in our life. You do this, you buy the house, you right? That's just what society does to us,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And we don't always have an opportunity to be in a position like they were to be in that environment,
Yep.
right? And when you are in that environment, you like it, and you go, "Oh my gosh, what were we doing?"
Yep.
Because we just automatically do what we think we're supposed to do.
Yep.
Right? Or I mean, we want to do it, but I'm just saying, we're not always put into those elements, and we were as kids. I mean, I know that's how I grew up,
Yep.
playing on the street, and that was and it just evolves. And unfortunately, there's a generation of kids that didn't get that opportunity to do that. But I think now I'm hearing more and more of that type of thing. People
Right.
want that lifestyle. So I love that it's intentional that people are really putting themselves out there to do that.
Yeah.
Because I think we need to get back to it to some degree.
Yep.
And if you have kids, then that's what and if that's the dream you have, then expose them to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I have my nephew, again, we're all born and raised here in Vegas. My nephew moved 2 years ago to Nashville, and for 6 months were a little challenging because he was like, he didn't have his friends and all of us. And, he thought for sure he's moving back. And then he's a year in, he's like, never moving back to Vegas.
Yeah.
And I was like, good for you, because I wanted him to live somewhere different,
Right.
Experience that. Right. And now you have the confidence that you can do it on your own. You can move out of this state halfway across the country, and build a new friendships and all of that. But I think I know this is going to sound cliche, but that's character building, right?
Yeah.
But I really think it's growth. He's in his mid-20s. It's growth. He's never going to be afraid to do that again.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
if there's opportunity and that's what took him out there, I keep telling him, you chase the opportunities, dude. And if it takes you somewhere else, go somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that is all, experiences and things you just can't even write about.
Right. And
Right.
the worst thing that could happen is,
Come back.
yeah, we move somewhere and we're there for a year or two. We're like, this is not for us.
Right.
We come back. Now we have not the luxury, that's not the right word, but in our situation, our twins are 4. So they're not entrenched in the schools and their friends and sports yet. So we can go somewhere, and if it doesn't work out, we can always come right back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
gives
But
us
you
that
won't.
flexibility.
You'll be out.
Yeah.
You'll have a great time. You'll
We're
have
gonna,
all your chickens.
we're gonna keep our basically like our HQ,
Yeah.
our office space here. We're just
Yeah.
about to sign a new 3-year lease. Like, actually, no, it's already signed. June 1st, we'll move into our new suite.
Okay.
So out of that suite, we'll have Backbone Planning Partners
Got
and
it.
Nevada Tree Service. So
Got it.
I will still have roots here. That's
Yeah.
not going to change, but we
Yeah.
just,
Well, and sometimes life just kind of gets, it goes so fast that I think you'll be in Boise or wherever you're going to go a year, and then it'll turn into 2 because you're just going to start, life happens.
Yep.
Right?
yeah. I
And
heard
then-
something really interesting. This is from this guy named Sahil Bloom. He's like a business influencer guy. And he's like, he posed these really great questions. And one of them was this, like, if you're the star in your own movie and all your network, your friends, your family, everyone is watching this movie, like, what would they be screaming at you to go do?
Oh my God.
Yeah, isn't that good? There's some other questions too that were like just
That is
super
so-
enlightening and like, wow, make you think. But
that you should go do.
yeah, so if everyone else is looking at, watching your movie and, they know like all the things about you and they're screaming at you to go do it, like, what would that be?
Totally.
Right?
Well, and I've been telling you, go move, 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 move.
Yeah.
Well, I know that's what you've been talking about for a couple of years. So
Yeah.
to me, it's,
Yeah.
I know that's what you've been wanting. So if that's what you want, I hope you find the place. I want you to find the place that everybody likes, right? And that it works.
Yep.
Which I doubt that it won't because people move all the time.
Yep.
That's kind of where my head is lately, is if I start venturing into something different or new,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, why am I don't want to say I'm second guessing. It's that slight thing, well, I've never done that before, but I'm like, everybody has a first time doing whatever they have done.
Yep.
There's always a first time you've been public speaking. There's always a first time you bought a business. Always a first time you work for yourself. Like, it's always a first time for everybody.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, I'm just as just the same as them. So if
Just
they
as
can do it,
capable, just
I
as
can do
yeah.
it. So I tell myself that lately. That's what's been popping into my head. Like, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Everybody else is just doing it.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
They may have had a fear, but they overcame that. Now they're successful doing what they're doing.
Yep.
Right? So that's kind of where my mindset is. But so tell me again who that guy was
Which one?
with the question.
Oh, Sahil Bloom. I think it's Sahil Bloom is his
Okay.
last name. Bloom.
We'll make sure that this is on the notes for the podcast
Yeah.
because this is huge.
Yeah, he puts out some really,
I need
really
to
great stuff.
listen to him. Well, I appreciate you coming today. It's been amazing. You are my little buddy who's just like me.
Yep.
We're the male and female version of each other.
Yep.
Always out and about in the community. So I appreciate that. Look forward to what you're doing, what you're buying, investing in, where you move. You'll be back again because I want an update on what's happening. Maybe
Yeah.
it's before you move, so I know what's happening. But thanks again, and I'll make sure that everybody has your contact information. I say that because if you're interested and you're in that position to be investing in these types of businesses, Landon's your man, at least even to get the preliminary conversation started, and maybe you can guide them whether or not they'd be a good fit for that anyway, right?
Yeah.
Or any investors that are looking to, participate in that and kind of get into that circle, right?
Yep.
So we'll make sure everybody has your contact info, and hopefully you'll get some really good leads from that. Because again, this is the Connection Corner, and my whole point in this is making connections in our community and letting people know what is out there.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, is having that ask, but telling the story, letting people know. I think if we're not hearing this enough, we don't know what opportunity is right in front of us.
Yeah.
We really don't.
Yep.
Right? So I love sharing all of that. So thanks everybody for tuning in today, and I will catch you next time.
Janelle, you're the best.
Thank you.